I like things that are a little wrong. That's where the beauty begins. In luxury fashion, beauty is often polished, obedient, and safe. But Rick Owens never worshipped safety. He worshipped the crack in the mirror, the place where beauty starts to rot and become real. He said beauty bored him. He preferred dignity, the kind you find in decay. Beauty to him was never about polish. I like the standards of beauty, he says.
Standards of beauty, but a lot of times I admit that I kind of react against the narrowness of them sometimes. I embrace it and I also tease it a little bit.
But I also kind of react to the narrowness of them. To Rick, luxury fashion brands had become museums of perfection. He wanted mess, humanity, contradiction. He built a cult from shadows, then watched those same shadows swallow him whole. And somehow, from that darkness, he rose again. As he once put it,
suggesting different aesthetic options, I can blur the lines of what can be considered very strict aesthetic standards. That is my job.
Maybe beauty isn't the glow of perfection. Maybe it's the bruise that reminds you you're alive. This is Rick Owens, the imperfect beauty. He doesn't design clothes to flatter the body. He designs to disturb the idea of beauty itself. His runway isn't about elegance. It's about honesty, ritual, and chaos turned sacred. This is the rise and fall fashion story of a man who turned ugliness into luxury, fell under the weight of his own myth, and rose again by redefining what beauty even means. For Rick, beauty was always an illusion, something sculpted, painted, and performed. He saw makeup not as disguise, but as design, another layer of architecture on the human form. In his world, artificial wasn't the opposite of real. It was a mirror reflecting who we choose to be.
Makeup is about glamour, and this is contemporary glamour.
Rick Owens was born in Porterville, California. Far from couture, close to dust. He studied pattern making at Otis College, dropped out, and stitched leather jackets in his apartment on a borrowed sewing machine. By 1994, those pieces, shredded, sculptural, strange, landed in local LA boutiques. They caught the eye of Michèle Lamy, artist, muse, future partner, and living proof of his aesthetic. By 2001, Vogue whispered his name. By 2002, he won the CFD Perry Ellis Award. The self-taught rebel from LA had become a priest of darkness in the fashion industry. My job isn't to make people look beautiful, he said. My job is to make them question what beauty even means. His early shows, Exploder, Sphinx, Tractor, looked like ancient rituals. Bias-cut gowns hung off the body like exhaustion, leather shells hugged it like armor. Audiences didn't know whether to applaud or pray. I want my work to be a hymn to the rejected. Rick Owens built an empire on contradiction, serenity in chaos, elegance in ruin. As he once explained, he loves the standards of beauty, but also admits he reacts against their narrowness. He believed imperfection was sacred. He called his method glorified DIY. Every tear, stain, and asymmetry carefully orchestrated. To him, high-end luxury brands were sterile museums of wealth. He wanted the human pulse back. I design for people who want to look like they don't care, but care a lot. By now, Rick's vision had started to ripple far beyond the runway. His designs weren't just clothing anymore. They had become a language of identity, a way for people to express the parts of themselves the world had told them to hide. For his followers, wearing Rick wasn't about fitting in. It was about declaring difference as something divine.
We're living in very turbulent times, and I was feeling nervous.
That single phrase captures his philosophy: style fades, conviction doesn't. By the late 2000s, Rick Owens was no longer underground. His marble-lined boutiques in Paris, Milan, and Tokyo became temples of brutalism. He was now part of the same luxury fashion business he'd once defied. When you start to be accepted by the people you rebelled against, he said, it messes with your head. The outsider was now the establishment. Success brought comfort. And comfort, for Rick, was corruption. His rebellion began to feel rehearsed. This was his first fall, not scandal, but seduction by success. For Rick, a fashion show was never just a presentation. It was a pulse. He didn't see the runway as a stage to display garments, but as a living altar where sound, light, and motion collided to create emotion, discomfort, transcendence, anything that reminded people they were alive. As he once said,
when you're going to do a show, I want something that has power, and so that...
In 2014, Rick tried to shake himself awake. The result, vicious. A show that shattered the runway rulebook. Instead of models, he sent step dancers stomping, sweating, and screaming. No heels, no pout, just rhythm, rage, and power. It was a manifesto of inclusivity and confrontation. Some hailed it as revolutionary. Others called it chaos. For the first time, applause turned to backlash. Then came Sphinx, 2015. Where garments revealed male nudity, vulnerability as rebellion. Then Cyclops, 2016, where gender and form dissolved. Then Larry, 2019, a volcanic ritual of smoke and structure. Each show was art, each pushed him closer to collapse. I like pushing people until they're uncomfortable, he said, because discomfort means honesty. By 2016, even fans began to wonder if the message still meant anything, or if provocation had become a product. Sales slowed. Critics rolled their eyes. He later confessed, I started to wonder if I was performing my own myth. I didn't want to be a parody of myself. This was his second fall, not of fame, but of meaning. Rick withdrew to Venice with Michèle Lamy. Marble, silence, distance. He stopped talking. He listened. Restraint, he would later say, is the most subversive thing you can do today. He began rebuilding from quiet. The rage softened into ritual. The brutality became balance. His new collections, Babel, Tequatl, Phlegethon, felt almost monastic. Muted tones, long silhouettes, stone-gray calm. The prophet of chaos had discovered peace. Beauty isn't about seduction, he said. It's about endurance. When he returned to Paris Fashion Week, something had changed. The spectacle was still there, but now it served silence, not shock. Rick began exploring sustainability, reusing nylons, recycling leathers, treating fabric as if it were architecture. His shows became meditations on stillness. The same man who once preached chaos now preached control. He turned business failure into creative renewal, proving that even in luxury designer brands, restraint can be revolutionary. Every collection is me trying to clean up the mess of the one before. Rick Owens' story mirrors the rhythm of fashion history itself: creation, corruption, collapse, and rebirth. He fell to fame, excess, ego, and rose through honesty. Today, he's more than an iconic fashion designer. He's a philosopher disguised as a tailor, a sculptor who uses fabric to question existence. In an age obsessed with filters, Rick Owens reminds us that the truest luxury is sincerity. Maybe the real rebellion isn't chaos. It's calm. Rick Owens rose by breaking beauty apart. He fell when success made him forget why he began. And he rose again by realizing that beauty doesn't have to please. It just has to mean. Rick Owens' story isn't just fashion news. It's a mirror held to every luxury brand chasing relevance. The rise and fall of Rick Owens shows that even in high fashion stories, the bravest act isn't shock, it's sincerity. So what do you think? Did Rick Owens truly fall? Or did he simply evolve beyond our idea of beauty? Because, as Rick Owens keeps proving, beauty always begins where perfection ends.